All right, thanks everybody for joining today. My name is Chris Madrano. I'm a Mobility CSC, and today's Architecture Fundamentals call is going to be on wireless basics. Murtaza, do you have the slide deck up? Murtaza?
There you go. Sorry, I was muted. I was going to say, Sean, you can just share your screen.
Sean Miller?
Yep. Hey guys, sorry, I'm sharing right now. Hold on one second. Can everybody see that?
Yes.
Okay.
Go ahead and flip to the next slide for me, Sean. So again, thank you everybody for joining in. This is Architectural Fundamentals Series. This slide deck and the recording will be posted and available, and we'll make sure that everybody has access to that. The focus on this is technical pre-sales. We've had some past sessions. In September, we had routing basics. In October, we had the switching basics. We will have another upcoming session in December, which is going to be more of a deep dive with wireless design and deployment as well. There's a few URLs and a few sites that you guys might find very helpful. The Voice of the Account Manager, Enterprise Networks, Voice of the Engineer for routing and switching. We have some Tech Talk routing and switching, and then also Tech Talk mobility as well. And of course, the Voice of the Engineer focused on mobility. For today's session, as questions come in, please use the WebEx Q&A panel, not in the chat. Panelists will go ahead and do the best we can to respond to your questions and get the answers back to you as fast as possible. In the end, of course, the slides and the recording will be posted to Architecture's Fundamental homepage. For that, I will go ahead and introduce Murtaza and Sean. They'll be presenting today. Please go ahead and take it away.
Great. Hey, everybody. Good afternoon. My name is Sean Miller. I'm a systems engineer in the APO Northeast. I'm excited to present some wireless basics to you today. We're going to go through a quick agenda. We're going to talk a little bit about wireless network trends, DNA, and then we're going to move on into our wireless portfolio, both indoor and outdoor. And then we're going to talk a little bit about our Meraki cloud-managed wireless portfolio as well. So with that, we'll jump right into it. I'll spend a few minutes on discussing the Cisco Digital Network Architecture for mobility. So for those of you that don't know what a Cisco Digital Network Architecture, or DNA, is, it's basically an open and extensible software-driven architecture built on a set of design principles with the primary objective and outcomes of being insights and experiences for faster business innovation, automation and assurance, lowering cost and complexity while meeting business and user needs and expectations, and then security and compliance to reduce risk as the organizations continue to expand and grow. We look at this platform in basically three layers. The first layer, starting from the bottom, being our platforms and virtualization layer. Here we have, physical and virtual devices, mainly coming together on a network. Core principle at the network layer is virtualization. We're taking roughly 30 years of networking innovations and virtualization functions, and so customers can easily run any service anywhere. Your customer can now build the full software stack from the infrastructure software that resides on servers to virtual network functions like routing, firewalls, and orchestration tools on physical and virtual devices. We're also modernizing our operating system with evolved iOS XE that is much more open and programmable with the model-driven APIs that we have. So this new OS is really allowing for faster innovation, leveraging Cisco, easier customer adoption, and capabilities through modular patches. So layer 2, we look at, the platform layer. Here we leverage the controllers to fully abstract the network and automate from all day, 0, 1, 2 to function. Through centralized policy and control, we can allow IT to provide the business intent and have the controller drive enforcement dynamically. And then we'll look at layer 3, basically the cloud managed service. We look at things such as, collaboration, mobility, IoT. All of these things are based in the cloud. Cisco and third parties can actually write and gain intelligence against those services provided, in the cloud, and correlate those by user, app, and device data for, a variety of capacity planning, testing, and other needs. So, it's basically DNA services, are primarily delivered through Cisco One software, and it provides a simplified, high-value solution with license portability and flexibility. Your customers can really start their DNA journey on our current portfolio, the portfolio that we're going to highlight today, and and we look at the power of software, and you'll see a lot of that. So, where is digitization impacting? The digitization of the enterprise is opening up new markets and creating ecosystems that often extend across multiple sectors. This allows organizations to accelerate business processes and introduce new services at breakneck speeds. And this expands government, healthcare, manufacturing, education, financial, even non-for-profits. So let's look at the evolution of the open office or the open workspace. Employees and devices no longer need a dedicated cable for connectivity. Wi-Fi is becoming critical to the business operations, from Wi-Fi calling to video services. Performance and adaptability is critical, to provide the optimal user experience. We're going to take a look at the Cisco Enterprise Wireless product portfolio and how really that provides for that adaptability and optimal user experience going forward. So we look at, a current Wave 2 controller portfolio, and really the transition from 802.11ac Wave 1 to Wave 2 is here. We're leveraging it, we're seeing it, and we're, this is the controller platform that our customers need to be looking at if they want to move down the road of digitization in their environments. So we give customers a wide portfolio of controller-centric options, from the autonomous APs in the past with Wave 1, which were basically just, your dummy boxes. The only thing they could really do is just connect to that controller and provide Wi-Fi. Now over to Mobility Express. And Mobility Express really focused on, the small office, the branch, where the actual access point itself can be a controller, and then multiple access points can talk to and connect to that AP for AP functions, analytics, and additional information. And then we start moving upwards. We look at the 3504 small medium business controller, and then to the 5520 and the 8540, which are basically for enterprise and larger controller Wi-Fi deployments, especially when we start looking at things like FlexConnect and whatnot. That's where the 8540 and the 5520 are going to come into play. And then we also offer, for those that do not want to have a physical appliance on site, from a Wi-Fi controller standpoint, we actually offer virtual controllers. So our virtual controllers are supported on ESX, and it's a VM that installs and basically starts pushing out configurations to your APs. So on the left, again, our prior generation, Wave 1 generation controllers, 2504, moves basically over to your Mobility Express. The 55.8 can be combined to, either use a 3504 or 5520 based on need, capacity, the whole deal. And then we look at a Flex 7510, 8510, moving over to the 8540. Well, let's take a quick look at, some of the innovations that only Cisco delivers on their APs. We provide, the best of class customized chipset. We're not using off-the-shelf chipsets that some of our competitors are providing. And really what we do is, and why we do that, is to support things like, flexible radio assignment, expandability for IoT, sensors for inline monitoring, Apple Fastlane. These are just some of the things that, we're pushing out based on our customized chipset and our ability to really, expand and create, again, that optimized user experience. And you'll see the list here. It's a bit of an eye chart, but, we're doing things like mGig, clean air, and we'll get into some of these in a little bit, even expandability. And when we talk about modularity and for things like, USB and antennas and everything else. So let's take a quick look at the Wave 2 portfolio. Really, it's three model sets. It's an 1800 model set, a 2800 model set, and a 3800 model set. 1815, you'll see, is really primarily used for that high power, teleworker, indoor, small office, home office. 1830, 1850. All of these are enterprise class, with the exception of the 2800 and 3800, which are really mission critical and best in class features. All of them provide are DNA ready, RF excellence. They all will do CMX, centralized Flex Connect, mobile express. When we start looking at the 2800 and the 3800, you'll see, we start really getting up there in regards to performance, and the spatial streams with these access points. The 2800 highlighting, the 2 gigabit Ethernet core uplinks, clean air capabilities, client link, also capabilities to do internal and external antennas, and USB 2.0. And we look over at the 3800, and we'll get into this a little more. We're able to do mGig on the 3800s, so pushing more data to the access points to support more users. Things like Stadium Vision, internal, external connectors, very similar to the 2800, but with that mGig support and investment-proof modularity. And we'll talk about that in a second. So again, highlighting the 2800 series. These are Wave 2 MIMO 3 spatial streams, Wave 2 802.11 AC access points. Dual radios, so you're getting your 2.5 and 5 gigahertz radios in here, and flexible radio assignment capabilities as well. And we'll talk a little bit more about that in the coming slides. We provide HDX technology within these and provide internal and external models. Then we look at the 3800, all the same with the exception of, the mGig, the mGig capabilities, bonding those gigabit, ports and creating a higher throughput, and then side mount modular capabilities as well. So we look at the ports and the capabilities, and we're looking at, a 3800. I mentioned modular port access. And with the 3800, here's some of the things. And really what we're doing is we're highlighting the expandability and investment protection of these access points going forward for your customers. So we look at things like, being able to integrate a 3G or LTE small cell, offload on these access points, Bluetooth beaconing, the ability to create custom applications, and tie those back to, analytics or things that you're doing, and then obviously future-proofing with Wi-Fi standards and adding video surveillance and everything else. So we have a program which is basically a development framework against these access points. And really what this allows our customers and our partner base to do with our partner ecosystem and software ecosystem is it allows for us to start looking and expanding out on, these access points and what they can do. What can they do from an IoT standpoint, mobility convergence? How can we develop applications or, custom hardware things for that manufacturer that's looking to automate, some inline, mechanical devices, on their shop floor. We're giving our customers and our partners the capability to leverage those features against the access point and tie those in. A little bit about how the module development works. We're signing our customers and our partners up via, Cisco DevNet. You have access to it. You obtain a module development kit, HDK or SDK, and basically start, developing against that. You develop, you go through your test phases, and then you productize, and away you go. And it can be deployed against those access points in the future. So looking at the portfolio, the current, Wave 2 AP portfolio, as we mentioned, the 1830, 1850, 2800, and the 3800. And you can see it's a bit of an eye chart, but you can see what you're gaining with the 2800 and 3800 over the 1800 series. And again, they're all very focus based. So, you may have a need for those 1800 series access points, in certain scenarios, and then, or with less, saturation, and then for things that have more saturation and more need, the 2800 and 3800 series access points. So we talked about a little bit, and I don't know if I highlighted too much about flexible radio assignments. And really, this is kind of one of the really neat features of our wireless portfolio, the Cisco wireless portfolio. It's really, allows, the intuitive network to dynamically convert from 2.4 gigahertz to 5 gigahertz for extra capacity when needed. So when we talk about, optimizing a self-optimizing network, we want to jump through these types of scenarios where, you have multiple people spread out in an office, serving wireless, either 5 gig or 2.4 gigahertz bands. And what are we going to do as we start introducing additional wireless? We talk about, the ability to minimize the impact via clean air capabilities and, and resolving basically wireless interference problems as these devices start converging and coming online across the network. But clean air, it's only half the story. In the workplace, we see people, gathering in non-traditional areas, cafes, water cooler, whatnot. And as they start, gathering in those areas, we start, putting more load on the nearest access point. So how do we do that? How do we accommodate for that capacity coming online and offline across that? And really, that is what the flexible radio assignment does. So we look at, right now we have, users across the office in general serving a 2.4 gigahertz band, to 5 megahertz. And what happens as these users start moving into a central location, such as, a conference room or whatnot, we need to adjust, and those radios will actually readjust from 2.4 to 5 gigahertz to support that, that concentration of wireless devices in a single location. So, we're doing this in an automated fashion, and we have the capabilities to basically, move our, the Wi-Fi around with that flexible radio assignment and switch it back, as needed. So really that capacity capabilities within the Cisco access points. So with that, I'll hand it over to Mirza. He's going to talk to us a little bit about the Cisco outdoor portfolio, CMX, and a few cool things.
Okay, great. Thanks a lot, Sean. Hey guys, Murtaza here. So in terms of the outdoor portfolio that we have, this is the latest portfolio for our outdoor 11AC Wave 2 APs. Just like the indoor APs, starting from the left, going to the right, it's our lowest class going up to our enterprise grade high class access point. 1540 is our newest model that we introduced. It's a 2x2. It's a low profile access point. It only comes with an internal antenna model. There's no external option for the 1540. It comes with an internal, which is an omnidirectional or a directional model, which provides a directional coverage. You have the 1560, which is sort of the best in class of the low and the high. It comes in various flavors depending on which market you're positioning this for and what the use case is. You have the internal antenna, you have the external antenna, you have the directional antenna, as well as you have the public safety option for that as well. And unlike the 1540, it also has other capabilities like SSP ports, which you can take more capabilities on it. And then 1570 is our higher end AP. It doesn't have as much versatility as the 1560, but when you're looking for things such as higher throughputs and advanced capabilities like options to connect cable modems, GPS, and things of that nature, have the AP work as a DOCSIS router and things like that. 1570 is the model for that. Next, Sean. All right. This is basically just a great chart. If you guys want to save, it gives you a breakdown of the capabilities as you move down the different models for the outdoor portfolio, and you can reference this to figure out which model you should be positioning. Next. This thing we've been doing, we've partnered with Apple almost, I think, a year and a half, 2 years now. But just wanted to make a note that, Cisco does partner with Apple. And, out of the Apple-Cisco partnership, we're able to bring in a lot more functionality for Apple devices on a Cisco network. When it comes, basically if you have an Apple device, it works a lot better on a Cisco network because we actually work with the Apple because Apple has so many proprietary kind of protocols and things like that, the way it works. we actually partner with them to make sure that their technology works really well and is able to interop with our Cisco wireless. So, when it comes to things like roaming and things like that, we're actually able to, differentiate Apple devices and make sure that they get the special configuration that they require to make sure they work flawlessly, just like any other, Android devices and things like that on the Cisco network. Next. So the next is HDX, right? We talk about how do we, talk about using our Cisco infrastructure. What about the next thing, right? Add-on services. How are we able to make add performance on top of our AP deployment, right? So far we talked about how do we get connectivity and what we have, right? So the next thing is CMX, right? Cisco Mobility Experience. This is our location-based and analytics platform. Basically, what this platform allows you to do is it gives you a way to easily use your existing wireless infrastructure to basically get people onboarded onto your network, or gives you a means to get people onboarded onto your network, things like guest users and things like that, and gives you a means to basically engage with them. This is a great solution where we basically push this towards the retail and hospitality kind of markets where they have a lot of guest users. They need to do guest onboarding. They need to provide some kind of loyalty, right? Some kind of differentiation differentiative service, right, to their customers, like sending them coupons, and sending them alerts, so the guests feel a much better user kind of experience when they're in their venue. CMX is the platform that's used for that kind of a service. And then along with the engagement piece, you also have the analytics piece where CMX is able to look at your wireless data and give you a good representation of how things within your wireless are working in terms of users coming into the venue, where they spend most of their time, where from one place to another, where they where they move, how long do they stay within the venue. If they visit one venue, what's the likelihood they go to another venue? Depending on the day of or time of day, time of year, gives you a breakdown on traffic statistics and things like that, right? So it's a very powerful engine that can give you a lot of information to recognize what your user base is for a lot of our business customers. Next. So in terms of what options we have to deploy CMX, it comes in two flavors. We have an on-prem and a cloud managed. On-prem, you get a lot more capabilities on the on-prem. It's a dedicated server that you deploy. You're able to get all of the full capabilities there. And then cloud-based is more for environments where they don't have a very big user base. It's more like for if an example I'm going to use like a hotel chains, for example, right? Where they have different chains all over the place, and all they want to do is the capabilities. They don't have invested infrastructure, but they just want to be able to send the statistical information and get the deployment up and running really quickly, right, and see what's happening in their business. So for deployments such as those, CMX Cloud is the go-to platform where you just set a URL to the cloud server, and then use the cloud server to basically see what's happening within your network and set up guest rules and things like that. Right, so that would so those two are the differentiations between the two platforms that we have in terms of positioning for CMX. Next, this is sort of more under the covers in terms of, how is CMX able to do all the things that I talked about, right? How is it able to get the analytics information? How is it able to provide that next level user experience where you're able to create that user interaction with the users? This is done through the way the system is deployed, right? Through APIs, RESTful APIs that it has, which gives you the capability to integrate CMX with the rest of the services that you have usually deployed in a business, right? Things like guest services, servers, asset management system, tracking system, and databases and things like that. So you can actually integrate CMX to those systems and provide that interactability of getting users to the data and vice versa, and provide that customized kind of service, right? So just as an example, a use case where we have this deployed is in a hospital. When a person comes in, once they onboard onto the network, because they provided their name and username, CMX can go check the backend system to see who this user is, and then provide the information back to the user saying, hey, you have an appointment today, this is where you need to go. And at the same time, because the CMX system detected the user, it can send an alert to the front desk, to the nurse saying to check this user in because he or she just came into the venue, things like that, right? So these are solutions that are actually been deployed already using CMX, and that's basically how that's basically what the advantage of using the CMX today. Next. And then this again is a great chart that tells you the two things that you can use cases for CMX. It can support Wi-Fi as well as BLE, and depending on what kind of service that you're looking for, what it is that you should be positioning from a deployment perspective for your location-based services. Next. The next thing is licensing, right? So I think this is one of the newest and one of the critical points, when we're talking about wireless, right? So, how do we get this, right? What options do we have? Cisco has, it's always changing, making things better, making things easier to consume. And if you remember the old model, right, it was an a la carte model where you bought the controller, you bought the APs, you bought the boxes, you bought the licenses separately, and then when it's time to do a refresh, you did all of that again, right? So now we've basically gone through a different sales motion, and where we are today is we have the DNA license scheme, right, where DNA is basically a subscription-based license. So we are basically moving away from the a la carte license, perpetual license, to a subscription model. So the subscription model allows you to get the hardware, allows you to get the appropriate licenses that you want, and at the same time provide you all of the services that goes along with getting the allows you to get the software upgrade support, get the technical support and things like that along with that subscription license. So instead of paying up front, you just pay monthly, and in terms of the paying scheme just becomes much easier. In terms of the different options that we have for the DNA, you have the DNA Essentials, which basically come with all of the base wireless features, along with the right to use the APs and prime infrastructure, right, for your management. The DNA Advantage for wireless basically adds in the additional capabilities on top of your wireless infrastructure. And then you have Cisco One Advantage for wireless. This is where one of the biggest value comes in for your subscription offer. With the Cisco One Advantage, You also get the right to use CMX-based licensing, as well as licensing for ISE, which is your Identity Services Engine, which gives you additional security capabilities onto your wired and wireless networking. Also, another great thing about C1, C1 adds in a license portability capability. So, if you're one of the customers that usually, want to protect your investment, and when you go into your refresh cycle, you want to not want to pay again for what you already have. With Cisco One, you can actually take care of the whole license portability, where you just change out the hardware, and then the licenses come with you, right? Stay with you. Next. Also, a very quick note. I won't spend too much time on this, but it's a great time to be in wireless, especially on the 5 gigahertz radio, where the FCC is introducing new channels into the 5 gigahertz spectrum, which provides us more channels, as well as allows us to do a lot more channel bonding, and still be able to utilize a lot more channels in the 5 gigahertz instead of running out, right? So 5 gigahertz is the place to be in terms of when you're trying to do any kind of deployments. When you're talking with our customers, this is one of the things that differentiates us, because a lot of our competitors, they don't have full support for this yet. Next. And this is basically just a note that's telling, our APs are actually rated to support 5 gigahertz. This is sort of an old slide because it has the old APs listed on here as well as the new APs. But this is basically just showing, as far as in terms of Cisco being compliant, we are totally compliant with our FCC regulations. Next. And the last note I want to talk about is the Mobility Express. So Mobility Express is a new technology that we introduced. So usually, I think Sean mentioned this when he was talking about the controller deployment options. But basically what Mobility Express allows you to do is it allows you to bring the controller functionality down to the AP level. So, why is this a very big advantage for us? Before, the deployment structure used to look like as if it's a small deployment, you deployed autonomous APs. That was a great deployment, but it only allowed you to get user connectivity. You weren't able to take advantage of all of the advanced features, right, that you could with a controller-based system. And then as your network grew, you could deploy a controller-based system. But with Mobility Express, we are basically saying we're basically taking out our autonomous deployment and giving you the what's the word I'm looking for? The intelligence within the AP to take care of the advanced features that the controller provides you, right? So now you're able to use these APs as a controller for small deployments and get that capability. And if you look at the scaling for this, you're actually able to scale out these AP to pretty-high scales, right? Supporting up to almost 50 access points to 100 access points to 1,000 to 2,000 users, which is actually a very big set. Also, there's one AP not here, which is also supported, our new 1542 APs, one of the newest ones that are in our outdoor portfolio. That's also supported. It's just not in this slide. But, that's all. This is actually one of the differentiators that we have that, you should always talk to the customers about that have small deployments. Next.
All right, great. Thanks, Mirza. So what would a Wireless Basics webinar be without talking about Meraki here. So back in 2012, Cisco acquired Meraki, and it's currently one of our fastest growing product lines. Currently Meraki has over 140,000 customers and over 2 million unique Meraki devices online. So we're going to talk a little bit about the Meraki wireless portfolio. Although we are only talking about the MR wireless portfolio, Meraki does expand across the full stack from Ethernet switches to security cameras. And to highlight, the features of Meraki, it's a single pane of glass, cloud-based, network management platform with obviously the hardware behind it. So one of the biggest benefits we see from Meraki, and as Mirza just went through our Cisco licensing slide, Meraki has a 1-to-1 license ratio of hardware to license. The licensing is required, and it includes, the centralized management of network-wide visibility and control, firmware and security updates, real-time or scheduled, and then 24/7 enterprise support and lifetime warranty. So when we look at the licensing on these Meraki devices are term-based, 1, 3, 7-year terms, but will include, again, the dashboard, single pane of glass, and the analytics, visibility, and control. So one of the other benefits of Meraki, it can be a zero-touch deployment. So let's just say you have multiple branch offices out there that need Wi-Fi, and you want to just drop ship those Meraki devices out to those branch offices and not have to worry about configuring them. Configuring can be done, via bulk. You can load up your Wi-Fi profiles, security profiles, even analytics, and through the dashboard, and basically it sets that configuration up on the Meraki device. So as soon as that Meraki device hits the cloud, it will pull down those configurations, and that end user is ready to go. So no more need for an actual IT support specialist in a branch office of 3 users. You can actually just drop ship this, have them plug it into the switch, make sure there's internet access there, and then away they go. So we talk about cloud-based, visibility and remote troubleshooting. So now no matter where I am in the world, I can actually log into my Meraki dashboard and see what's going on. So if I have somebody in the UK, complaining that, hey, listen, we're having an issue with Wi-Fi, it's slow, we're getting disconnects, instead of having to actually be on site, or remote desktop into a machine that's local to analyze and look at the issues, I can now log into a dashboard, from California and see exactly what's going on in that access point, look at usage, saturation, even interference. And we highlight a little bit about the RF spectrum analysis, what else is going on, in that general area of that access point that could potentially be causing interference on that device. And all of this, again, cloud-based remote troubleshooting capabilities. Talk a little bit about, highlighted firmware management under the license capabilities. It's cloud, right? So you're notified when there's a new piece of firmware available on the Meraki side. You're able to schedule that firmware, schedule it immediately, schedule it in the future, when, obviously holidays or when people are offline. And the Meraki dashboard and cloud management piece actually will push that firmware down, push it to those devices, reboot those devices, and bring them back online, and you're able to get an indication if those Meraki devices have been upgraded and what firmware levels they're at. So we'll take a quick look at the MR wireless access point line. There's 7 models of Meraki, including indoor and outdoor. They're all high performance 802.11ac, value priced, they have RF optimization, PoE, voice video support, and then a lifetime support on the indoors. Highlighting some of the features, we look at the dashboard. Here are some of the things that you can do within that dashboard and push these things down to the access points, BYOD policies, application traffic shaping, enterprise security, WIDs, WIPs, even location analytics. So here are the access points currently provided by Meraki. We have the MR30H, which is, your smaller, SOHO, even teleworker, hotel room type of access point. And then we move up through your entry level, and all of them supporting Wave 2, entry level. And then we have the 3-stream, which is 3 spatial streams, and then 4 spatial streams with the MR52, 53. And then we provide the outdoor Meraki access points to MR62 through the MR84. You'll notice the MR62 single radio, not Wave 2. On my next slide, and we didn't put it, the MR62 is end of sale as of the 15th of this month. So keep that in mind. It's actually going to drop to 6 access points, the MR72 and the MR82. Then we have some wireless end of sale updates. The MR18 was end of sale March 31st, 2017. That was replaced by the MR30H, and then the MR32 end of sale July 31st, and then the MR62, which is end of sale of November 15th of this year. So we talked a little bit about, hostile RF environments, right? Interference and, what happens at that point, and how can we troubleshoot if, a wireless band is being interfered with by others, in the area. The MR radio actually has an air marshal, and what it does is it's a dual band, network, or a dual band antenna feature that actually will go out and detect the radio frequencies available or being accessed, or being pushed out on the network. It will automatically adjust channel and power configurations based on the interference that it's seeing to provide that optimized wire throughput for the end users. So this is a neat feature. We also do it on the Cisco side as well, very similar to our clean air capabilities. And then we Marissa talked a little bit about, our CMX platform. Meraki does offer a CMX platform for retail. It will do things like, analyze foot traffic. It will give you analytics as far as, when people are coming in, are they dwelling within the location for a certain period of time? When are they leaving? Passerbys or window shoppers, connecting and taking a look at things. And, really, CMX for retail is to, we think about, where to put end caps in a retail environment, and where are people spending the most amount of time, what access points are getting saturated when, and we're able to see through all of that through, things like the analytics, the foot traffic, the heat maps, and what are we going to do? What are we going to do when people log into our Wi-Fi? Are we pushing out, Facebook, page check-ins, things like that, really enhancing that user experience and driving that brand visibility from a retail perspective. Now, I'm going to caveat this with, the difference between a Cisco CMX solution and the Meraki CMX solution. The Meraki CMX solution is very basic, right? You're getting just base level analytics versus more in-depth capabilities from the Cisco side. So if you're really looking to drive analytics in full detailed format, text messaging, Bluetooth, pushing things down and understanding, more stuff than just the basics, then that's where the Cisco CMX is going to play versus the Meraki retail side of it, or Meraki CMX side of it. As MRSA highlighted a little bit about the Bluetooth, full capabilities within the Meraki, similar to the Bluetooth capabilities and the Cisco line. And then in addition, we're doing FastLane as well. So Meraki does support the Apple FastLane capabilities for intelligent, efficient roaming, making critical applications coming from that Apple device, more reliable, giving them priority over the network versus, an Android device or another, wireless device. And really, that is what Apple FastLane is, right? It's giving the Apple device priority and, that Wi-Fi priority for multiple different things. And that is it. So that's Meraki, and that is wireless basics. Chris, I'll hand it back over to you.
All right, folks, we'll go ahead and we'll hang out for a few more minutes. It looks like most of the questions have been answered in the Q&A. If there are any more, please feel free to post them. We'll stay on and try to answer the rest of them for you. Again, thank you for joining us today, and we look forward to seeing most of you again on our session that will be coming up in December, which will be a little bit more of a wireless deep dive, talking more about design and deployment.